I told my son I was going to do my next episode on female film directors, and he said, well, like who? The first name that came to my mind was Catherine Bigelow. She was the first woman to win a Best Director Oscar for The Hurt Locker. She also made Zero Dark 30, two good films that are kind of male-oriented and that I knew my son had seen. Then I asked my wife, which female film directors come to your mind? Sofia Coppola came to her mind right off the bat, followed by Greta Gerwig and Amy Heckerling. Three great choices, but I wanted to go a little bit further back in this episode. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. This is my closet full of all the stuff that I love. And today, three female film directors from the 50s and 70s who really blazed a trail for all other filmmakers to come. Ida Lupino was an actress who starred in several well-regarded films, High Sierra, On Dangerous Ground, The Sea Wolf, and then later she became the most prominent female filmmaker in the 50s. She even had her own production company, which she started with her husband at the time, Collier Young, called The Filmmakers. Now, she had to be careful on the set because this is the 50s and some men may not want to take direction from a woman, so she had to say things a certain way and maybe pretend like she didn't know as much as she really did, even though later on many people said she knew a lot about filmmaking and a lot about cameras, just as much as the cinematographer probably did. Later on in her career, she ended up directing over 100 episodes of television, everything from The Fugitive to 77 Sunset Strip to The Rifleman to even Gilligan's Island. She died at age 77. She had a stroke while undergoing treatment for colon cancer. She liked to address controversial subjects, social issues, and this is a box set of her work, Ida Lupino Filmmaker Collection. And there are 4 films in here that I want to mention. The first one is Not Wanted. This is from 1949, and it deals with an out-of-wedlock pregnancy. And actually, the director of the film suffered a heart attack in the middle of filming, and Lupino took over and basically directed the film, but out of respect for her colleague, she gave him the directing credit. Next up, she made a film same year called Never Fear. Again, a social issue. This one is about a young woman who is a dancer and she gets polio. Now, Lupino may have put some of her own experience into this one because she actually herself got polio when she was 16 years old. And she did, by the way, either write or co-write all these films as well as directing them. Next up, in 1953, she directed the film The Bigamist. And a different protagonist this time. We have a male protagonist, and he has 2 wives. One is a rather well-to-do woman played by Joan Fontaine, and the other one is more of a working-class, blue-collar woman played by Ida Lupino herself. Now, interestingly, she and her husband, Collier Young, divorced before the beginning of this film, and he married Joan Fontaine, who plays the other woman in this film. Next up, we have what is probably her best film, The Hitch-hiker, same year, 1953. The first, possibly the only, film noir directed by a woman. And it's based on a true story of this man who got rides with people, ended up killing them. And the main character of The Hitchhiker is played by William Tallman in a really good performance. I would even say this is a seminal film noir, definitely top 20, let's say, at least for sure top 30. And it's about these 2 guys who are friends, and they decide to go on a fishing trip. And they pick up this hitchhiker, and it just goes on from there. It's very tightly constructed, fast-moving, very dark, as film noir should be. Barbara Loden began her career as an actress and a model, and then in 1970 she made a film called Wanda. This is the only film she directed. She also wrote it and stars as the main character. I first saw this film, I think, when I was a teenager, and it was on PBS. It's a very low-budget film. It took her about a year to make it, and it's very influential for independent filmmakers. It has a cinema verite style, very shaky camera, naturalistic sound, grainy look to the film. And Loden and her co-star are the only two professional actors in the film. Everybody else were people she found as she went along and auditioned other people for the film, but she hired non-professionals to act in it. It's a kind of an odd film. It's a part road movie, part heist movie. Wanda, the main character, is a very passive, mistreated woman. She's poor, she's unskilled. At the beginning of the film, we learn that she basically abandoned her husband and her kids. And she just kind of goes from place to place and meets men in coffee shops and sleeps with them, and things happen from there. It's actually based on a news story that Barbara Loden read about a woman who was involved in a failed bank robbery. And when the judge sentenced her to 20 years in prison, she thanked the judge. She was happy she had a place to finally settle down and live, and to get meals on a regular basis. This won the International Critics' Choice Prize at the Venice Film Festival in 1970, and Loden was actually married to the filmmaker Elia Kazan, and tragically died of breast cancer at age 48. On the Blu-ray, this is Criterion Collection Blu-ray. On this Blu-ray, it includes a documentary about her, which was okay, but I think most interesting is a 10-minute clip of her being interviewed on the Dick Cavett Show. And finally, I want to talk about Elaine May. Now, she got her start in improvisational comedy in the 50s and then teamed up with Mike Nichols, who of course went on to his own career as a filmmaker, making films such as The Graduate and Carnal Knowledge and Catch-22. But their act together, Nichols and May, was very fresh, groundbreaking comedy, very successful and very influential. They created scenes on stage and relied on characters and references to other things rather than jokes like most comedians and comedy groups are doing at the time. She's also a co-writer of several films, some credited, some not. Films such as Heaven Can Wait and Tootsie. The latest role she did was A Crisis in 6 Scenes, which is a series on Amazon Prime. But the film I want to talk about today is her film from 1971, A New Leaf. And this is about a playboy played with great comedic skill by Walter Matthau. And he's broke. And he just cannot give up his lavish lifestyle, so he's not about to go to work. So he decides he needs to meet an heiress who has lots of money, marry her, kill her, and then inherit her money. So kind of a dark comedy. The heiress is played by Elaine May herself. She also wrote and directed. And she's kind of a ditzy, nerdy botanist. And I won't give away anything else that happens. Other films that Elaine May has directed include one of my favorites that I talked about before in another episode called The Heartbreak Kid. She also did a film about the small-time crooks called Mikey and Nicky. And she also directed the infamous film Ishtar, which I have never seen. So there you have it. 3 female film directors who really made their mark in cinema. All of these films are available for purchase. Most of them you can find streaming. If you check like on imdb.com, usually it tells you which films are available for streaming and where you can find them. Hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a comment. Maybe there's some female directors I left out, like Barbra Streisand, for example. Leave a thumbs up would be great. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be even greater. Feel free to share this video with your friends and neighbors. And thanks for watching. and I will see you next time.